always chillin', never lazy, just ecstatic, energetic with a little bit of crazy. She works it up and though she doesn't keep track, whatever, everything left over goes up top and in the back. And when you wanna pop the question, don't be bringing a rock. Get down on your knees, son, and show her that ring pop. She's sucking on it and she ain't gonna stop. You know you gave her cherry flavor, now that cherry's getting popped. Eating like it's copulating, no one's gonna stop her. She's a crazy lollipop, a latent, hungry kitty monster. If you're chosen, homie, getting like cause everybody wants a little piece of that candy ass. She's eating like it's copulating, no one's gonna stop her. She's a crazy lollipop, a latent, hungry kitty monster. If you're chosen, homie, getting like cause everybody wants a little piece of that candy ass. Alright, so the song was written by my dick. So if it sucks, you know, don't be too hard on him. Don't ride him too much. Starving, give me something for my blood sugar drop. Man, the candy shop's closed and my heart's gonna stop. My stomach's gone numb, it's got me weak in the knees. I need to snack up to get back up, but I'm easy to please. And then she struts on by with that look in her eye. My hunger gets me so hard that I'm ready to cry. My sweet tooth's aching as I pass pristine hourglass full of sugar called the Calorie Queen. She's got a wide selection, carries every flavor. Yo, we could do this now, but we could also do it later. She takes my last bite, set the crumbs on her chest, and with the wing she has to follow the rest. Eating like it's copulating, no one's gonna stop her. She's a crazy lollipop, a latent, hungry kitty monster. If you're chosen, homie, getting like cause everybody wants a little piece of that candy ass. She's eating like it's copulating, no one's gonna stop her. She's a crazy lollipop, a latent, hungry kitty monster. If you're chosen, homie, getting like cause everybody wants a little piece of that candy ass. She's got the whole package in the front, mad sackage, got that shipment in the back, and I can't wait to unpack it. Need a snack, gonna grab one off the rack. She's always fully stacked, this honey ain't one to slack. The other girls say, oh my gosh, she really loves that Fugazi, man. Fuck these basic bitches, they can't handle that Dagashi. All choking, getting sick off sugar stick that thick. But the candy queen, she takes it down with the lick of her lips. Don't be lying, guys, she's got you mesmerized from looking in her eyes, the way you look at her thighs. Dara's hot and she likes candy, that's really all I'm trying to communicate here. Eating like it's copulating, no one's gonna stop her. She's a crazy lollipop, a latent, hungry kitty monster. If you're chosen, homie, getting like cause everybody me so hard that I'm ready to cry. My sweet tooth's aching as I pass Christine. Hourglass full of sugar called the Calorie Queen.
And hello everybody. I hope you can hear me. I hope my voice is coming across nice and crisp and clear. Today, welcome to the stream. There we go. I hope you're all having a good day. Welcome to your weekly Leathercraft stream. Get that camera where I want it to be. So we have a few projects we can work on today. We have a completely new, untried pattern that I am trying out for the first time. We have some. We have a couple of orders to fulfill. We have a couple We have sets of cuffs to finish up. We also potentially have. I can show you how I sort of do some of the finishing stuff on some of my other products. It's kind of up to you, but we're gonna start with this pattern. This pattern is a stitching based pattern, so it's a very it's a stitching based pattern that is it's very intensive. It's got a lot of stitching in it, which means we'll get through as much of it as we can today. If we find the stitching is a little bit boring, we might try something else to occupy our brains. Or if my fingers start getting really tired or something like that. After we do a bit of our Leathercraft, I got permission, and I'm probably going to, if we go long enough, switch over and stream Daruto's Beat Saber stream, and you'll see me there as we do some multiplayer. But for now, let's get started on let's work on this pattern. I am following a video guide, so you'll see me sort of switching back and forth as I see the different things I need to do. I'm also going to put the music, as usual, in the background. So we'll have some music. One thing I found last week at the help of a Lori Bun is, let's see if I can find it, some videos on sort of Japanese shamisen rock stuff, which seems potentially really kind of cool. I don't think it's lo-fi, but we'll give it a try. Let's see if I can find that stuff. We also want to change that to headphones. We don't want that playing over our speakers, because then you'd hear doubles, and doubles is no good. That's not it. Here we go. Let's see what Samurai Girl has to offer us. I rather like this kind of music, so we're gonna give it a try for a little bit. One thing I was doing was, as I was using my broderie tool here to shave down some of this leather, because the way the instructions look, it's going to be, it needs to be kind of folded back on itself, which means it needs to be thinner. Now, the leather that I'm using for this is significantly thicker than I think the pattern intended, which means for some of the bends and some of the way the leather is supposed to shift, I may have to get some water and do a little thing called wet molding, which is just a way to get leather to become more malleable, and it helps it change its shape, hold its new shape, things like that. So if you see me, so for that part, you know, if we have to do that part, we will. I don't want to have to, but you never know. You know, it's kind of one of those things where, since I'm using not exactly the right kind of leather for this project, it's a challenge I might just have to deal with. You may not be able to see what I'm doing right now, but I am shaving this leather down, as I said, so it'll bend back a little bit easier. We want this leather pretty thin, according to what I'm seeing from what I've seen of the guide. So I was hoping to get this done before I had to sign on today, but so we could just jump straight into the stitching. But it looks like I wasn't able to do that. So pardon me while I do this trimming part real quick. Now this is entirely a hand-stitched project, and kind of the advantage of that with hand stitching is hand stitching can be a bit more forgiving when doing weird transitions or when having to kind of force your project together a little bit more, because you can sort of pull things together a little bit more and force them a little bit more. I will also say the project on the video did all of the dyeing first, the coloring of the leather first. I did not do that. I just want to see if this pattern works and produces what I want it to. What is this pattern, you might ask? Well, I'm kind of keeping that a little bit of a secret, because if it works out, I think it'll be really nifty, and it'll be really kind of a little bit of a surprise. But you'll probably figure it out. You'll probably figure it out relatively quickly if you're sort of watching me and paying attention. Let's see, the holes. I'm gonna keep using my sinew. It's just easier and sturdier that way. And we are going to, and it's just going to make things more convenient for me. For this, though, we do want some of the smaller sized needles. Let's see. So, because I did punch the holes a bit smaller, so we do want to use something a little bit smaller. I'm going to try a different, I'm also going to try a different couple stitches on this one, on this project. The maker on this use a couple of weird stitches or shortcut or stitches that I think are a little more complicated than needed. And I don't want to do that because I'm lazy and I don't want to do that. So we're just going to stick with some standard stitch styles today. I hope so. Okay, what else have we got going on in here? Everybody's starting now. That's okay. I just need to make sure. Yeah, those can get through there. As long as they can get through, I'm good. Even if I have to push a little bit. I mean, that is rather the point of the diamond head on these, is the diamond head will widen the hole just a little bit and make it easier for certain needles to go through. I'm going to do the same. These are the ones I just shaved, so the holes kind of got closed up as I reshaved the leather. That's a thing that can happen. So I'm just reopening them a little bit. Okay. Right. I watched the first little bit of the guide, and it starts kind of the way I expected it to, which is there's a couple spots where we need to sort of close these holes and make bring the leather together, like that. Just a little, it adds a little curve to it. Shouldn't have probably shaved those corners, but you know, oh well. Let us grab, we're gonna grab this one and this one needle-wise. And we're gonna get started. I expect this particular stream is not going to be the most thrilling. It's going to be a lot of hand stitching, so you're going to see me poke my fingers a bunch, probably. I also have this drill bit here in case I need to switch the drill bit and expand any of these holes. And the did I forget to? No, there it is. And the sanding bit is on there, so again, I can shave down the leather when I need to. We're gonna do this. Now, what I wanted to try on this one is a simpler stitch, sometimes called a loop stitch. It should still be able to hold these pretty well for what we're trying to do. It's a single needle stitch style instead of a double needle stitch style. So in some ways it's going to be easier. But basically what it involves is we're going to go in this side. Come here, you. Where did I put my pliers? Because what was one of my rules? Oh, right. No, we want to go the other way. We want to go the other way. One of my rules was I'm not going to stress my fingers out for the sake of leather work. So the question is where did I put my pliers? So I can pull the needles through well. Did I put them? Obviously I put them somewhere, but the question is where did I put them? I put them somewhere out of sight. Why? Because I'm a doofus who just puts things down and then forgets about their existence. So you will often see me doing that, where I just put a tool down and then it's gone. And it's usually right somewhere where I can find it in easy reach, but I've forgotten where it is, so it is effectively gone. Because that's just what we do. Oh, it's literally there, just not very visible. Pliers. Hello, feline. How are you today? So, we're gonna, since as I said, our goal is not to injure our fingers, we're gonna use the pliers where necessary. So this is, as I said, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying out a loop stitch. That's literally just go through, pull your needle through, Bit groggy? Yeah, I could get that. Whoops. It's not meant to pull that hard. It goes good. I'm starting this new... I'm trying out this new pattern. I'm thinking maybe I should have used a slightly bigger drill bit to drill my holes. But, you know, we all make mistakes, right? All right, so basically I'm going to I'm going to do a double loop through here. Yeah, pretty much that. Pretty much that. And I'm just going to go through here and cinch this down a little bit. Now the goal is to pull this together without pulling this through. So I'm going to next. So then we move on to the next hole, etc., etc., etc. You know, so expect many pull it through the hole jokes. Now, one thing I could do, if people were interested, this is very thick leather. I am in fact using leather that is probably too thick for the project that I am trying to do, but I have had this thick-ass leather for years now, thinking that maybe I'd get around to making like some big heavy leather paddles or something with it, and I just haven't. So now I'm just like, fuck it, I've got it. I've got this pattern that I want to try out, but I don't want to buy new leather or use my good leather with it. So I'm just going to use it and get rid of it. Yep. Now, if the end result of this is something good, great, sure, that'll work. I'll be happy. But for now, the goal is just use a leather on a new pattern that I would not otherwise use. And the other leather that I have that sort of fits that same category is probably way too thin for this. And honestly, having something being too thin in a having leather that's too thin in a leather project is usually worse than leather that's too thick. Which I have unfortunately learned kind of the hard way. You know. Leather that is too thick, you can sort of take measures to deal with that. But leather that is too thin just turns out awful. Turns out awful. No, I wish I had leather that was just right. So, as I said, I'm going off of a video guide for this, so I need to check a couple things to see if I'm sort of I'm getting the stitches that it wants me to get. Okay, so you're going through there, and you're doing the top stitch or not? You are not doing the top stitch. Okay. Cool. All right. So I only have to do. So I'm not going. So I'm not doing those last two stitches right there. I am just doing these ones here. Which means I can go back, pull that through. Come here, you. Pull that nice and tight. Look, you always want leather that's nice and tight. Let's be clear about that. Leather that's nice and tight is the best. I get that. I mean, you know, what you do have is you do have, like, as options, you have, like, leather clothing and things like that, but, you know, it's kind of like, if it's not something you need, it's not something you need. Or leather belts, leather, you know. Beth was suggesting I should make leather sensor holders for the various VR systems. Okay, I think that's more like what this is supposed to look like, which is it's supposed to be pulled pretty tight. You know, I don't know if this loop stitch is better than a cross stitch or not, but, you know, it has some advantages. The advantages being it's pretty easy to do. I don't know if it's faster, really. Fire. But, you know, especially with the sinew is very, very grabby. So it pretty much wants to stay This is artificial sinew. Artificial sinew is very grabby, meaning it kind of wants to cling to itself and cling to the project, which can be very, very good for these kind of more simple, for if you're doing a more simple stitch, because you can rely more on the thread / sinew to hold your project. Whereas with thinner threads, you really have to get a tighter. You kind of have to give it a tight. You have to get a tighter stitch because the thread doesn't want to hold as well. Which is kind of neither here nor there about style, or, you know, it's more just a question of preference in stitching style. Okay. Have fun doing the laundry or storming the castle, depending on which way you want to take that, I suppose. Really? Twitch, you've only been doing live for like half an hour. Why are you doing the... Alright, because I told it to. Never mind. For reference, we do a minute 30 of ads every 30 minutes to help prevent pre-rolls. I'm really debating between changing that to a 3-minute ad break every hour. I don't know if I want to do that or not, but it's tempting. Here we're getting to the point where the stitching can kind of hold on to itself, which is good. That is less a problem when you're doing full cross stitching, but you know. Yeah, I should have made these holes just like 1 bit size larger, just to make it a little bit easier to pull these needles through. That's my mistake. You're going to be hearing a lot of that grunting over the course of this stream as I do my best to pull needles through very, very thick leather. And I could go through and re-drill all of the holes, but that's a time expenditure I don't want to deal with. Pliers will do. Okay. All right, so that's part number 2. Now we will burn it down. Burn it down. All right. Now, will this kind of stitch hold against like someone seriously pulling on it? No, but we're not looking for that. We're just looking for something that'll hold the piece. Okay, so next we have these 2 pieces, which appear to go together, and they are go there to there or there to there. I think they go there to there. Let's take a look. Let me take a quick look at the video. If people are interested, I could potentially sort of... Oh, no, wait. We have to do the eyes now. If people are interested, I could do the... I could see about trying to put the video into the corner of the screen. The video that I'm following, the tutorial I'm following. If you want. If not, it's not that big a deal, really. If it's not something that people care about very much. Since I'm kind of doing the thing anyway. Okay. Now this is the part that I said was a little bit... There's some awkward stitches from what I've seen in this, but we're going to do our best with them. Yeah, I mean, that is what it is with me. It's that I basically what I do is I play the video to the point where I know what the next stitch is going to be, and then I just pause it. So it just kind of be sitting there for the most part. But hey, if people are interested, there's no reason I can't do it. And we'll go through one more time, because we really want to reinforce this stitch. When we're doing two pieces of leather like this, and this is kind of the only thing holding them together, you want to add a good amount of thread in there just to make sure that it's going to stay. This might be also one of those places where, as I said, I might need what's called wet molding to get it to take the shape I want, which is literally just adding water to make the leather more pliable so it shapes a little bit better. And then when the leather dries, usually what happens is the water, and when it dries, it takes the shape a little bit better. It holds that shape a little bit better. So since we are normally on a thinner leather, that wouldn't be necessary, but since this is such thick leather, that might become an issue later in the process. I do not know. As I said, I'm kind of following along a pre-made guide. Yeah, I can see how that's... Alright, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to... I can already tell this is going to need wet molding to hold the shape it wants. I'm also kind of thinking about how this could be done better in the future. And I think it could. I almost certainly think it could. Now, the nice thing about the kind of leather that I'm using is this stuff drinks water like water. It takes in a huge amount. It can take in a lot of water, and it gets very pliable. So it can be a lot of fun. So it's very good for that wet molding technique that I was just mentioning. I mean, it would be kind of cool to be able to incorporate a VR helmet into like a costuming thing, I would think. I'm also looking at this pattern and going, I think there's an easier way you could have done this particular join, but alright. Like, that's how they decided to do it, but I think it definitely could have been easier. Why would you just randomly wander around with your quest, though? Like, that's the part I don't really get. Like, okay, sure, it has the capability to do pass-through. But why are you needing to why do you need to use that? Why are you just kind of wandering around with it? The only time I've actively had to kind of walk around with my Quest headset on was when I had to walk to my computer to change a setting that had gotten messed up or something like that. And even then, I generally didn't. Why not? I don't know, because it doesn't look very good, and it kind of is. Okay, so if I redo this pattern again, if I do this pattern again, which I might, I'm definitely going to rethink this particular join. Because I think they are going for a specific look, and we'll see how it looks when we're done, if we get that far today. But this little join here is needlessly a pain in the ass. Ah! Oh, that makes sense. Uh-oh. No, there it is. One thing you don't want to do, drop your needle. Guess what I did? Dropped my needle. Alright, let's... Alright, and always melt the ends. And I am definitely feeling this is going to need that wet molding I was talking about, so I'm going to grab some warm water real quick, just to kind of dip these in and let them fold a little bit better. So give me just a minute, I'll be right back. As I try not to spill things. Hardy, 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 har, har. Har, har, har. Okay, so this is just basically a little bit of warm water. All I'm really going to do is I'm going to dip these sort of edges in it and let it soak up some of the water, hopefully without getting too much of the rest of it wet. We just want these little pieces to get wet. Let it soak up a good bit of water. All right, and we'll do the same over here. Yeah, and actually this leather does do that. It is extremely thirsty. It will slurp up water. And then we're going to sort of press these out into the shape I'm guessing they want. I'm sort of guessing this is the shape they want. Pretty sure that's not supposed to be visible, but this is also the disadvantage of working with leather that is significantly thicker than the kind of leather they recommend for this particular pattern. Is I'm just kind of jury-rigging a lot. Nope, but we will do what we can. We'll do what we can with it, is what is the truth of it. I can kind of see what they're going for, but that said, I also feel like I have a really bad sense of size. Of scale. So when I'm looking at this particular project in general, like I definitely feel like it's too small for what the final product is supposed to be. For my tastes, and sometimes that annoys me. But it'll probably work out. I'm sure it'll work out somehow. Right? Alright, so you're not going all the way to the edge with those. Okay, cool. And you're going underneath. Alright. That's what I wanted to see. So the next piece is going to go from there to there. It's going to go underneath, which means we need another. But yeah, this is one of the reasons. This is one of the reasons that I consider myself really bad at making patterns. Because, like, my sense of scale is really bad. So I often will look at patterns and go, "Oh, that's going to be too small. There's no way that'll fit. There's no way that'll fit." And then I make it, and it's like, "Oh no, it fits. It does exactly what it's supposed to do." You know. It works exactly the way the patterner intended. Who would have thought that someone who is good at patterning would have an idea of how to make these? And I will admit, it's sometimes a little frustrating to see that kind of talent when I don't have it. I will say, I get a little jealous of that talent. Because oftentimes I can absolutely imagine what I'm trying to make. I can absolutely imagine what I'm trying to design. I can absolutely imagine my goal. I can even imagine breaking the parts into their individual pieces. And, like, I can even kind of imagine breaking the parts into their individual pieces and, you know, sort of imagining how the parts would go together. But you ask me any of the proportions or how things are, like, anything resembling measurements, and it's like, nope, sorry, can't do that. Well, and that's a little bit of the thing, Feline, is that yes, you can learn some of that stuff through practice, but in my experience, there is another component that is basically just about how your brain works. And it's kind of like if you don't have that part of you that's how your brain works, then it'll never be something you can really do. Yeah, maybe I should have Muck put one of those Neuralink chips in my brain and have him just teach me how to do everything like in the Matrix. That's what I'll do. That's how I'll change how my brain works. Admittedly, if that included full body, full sensory VR, I'd be more inclined. But yeah. Oh, believe me, I am on those, just not. So I think in this case, it is related to Are you familiar? So, as we kind of know now, there are more than 5 senses. You know, that's just kind of a thing that we know now. There are more than 5 senses. You know, well, one of your senses is I forget what it's called, but it's the sense of where your brain is or where your body is in the space around you. Like your spatial sense and, you know, where things are in relation to your body. Yeah, something like that. And I've always been really bad at that. Like, that is a sense that I won't say I don't have, because I do have it somewhat. Whoops. But I'm kind of a firm believer that because that sense of mine is pretty underdeveloped, and it doesn't work real well, that probably relates to my inability to do patterning and understand spatial relations. So, you know, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. And unsurprisingly, people with ADHD tend to have somewhat bad I think it actually starts with a P, but okay. But, you know, surprise, surprise, people with ADHD tend to have that be not great with that sense. Okay. I know there's a sense that starts with a P as well, but I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. And I did it again. Yeah. But yeah, I would say it's a pretty reasonable assumption to make that proprioception relates to position, kinesthesia, resolute. Okay, yeah, there it is. But, like, generally, ADHD sufferers tend to be pretty bad with one or both. So, if that's true, and those spatial senses also kind of relate to your ability to visualize space, maybe that's why. I mean, it's entirely possible. I couldn't tell you for certain, but... the kind of I won't say the famous, but the cliche D&D thing from the old days was, imagine a 10 by 10 foot room with an orc and a chest. And, like, sure, I can imagine a room with an orc and a chest in it, but I could not, if you just said imagine a 10 by 10 foot room, I can't imagine I couldn't perceive what a 10 by 10 foot room would look like. I would just, in my brain, picture a room. Hell, if you gave me a room and described the room to me in like what furniture was in it and where that furniture was in relation to each other, I could probably visualize that too. But if you asked me like measurements or how far apart they were from each other or how big the room is or anything like that, I'm done. There is no chance of me doing it. Okay, so after that, still going to be working on that. Then we're going to be working on that. Okay. All right, and we are going to be going from the corner down. Okay. Cool. And it's going to be on top. All right. So now we want to come back to these guys. Was it these guys? Yeah, it was these guys. And these guys are basically going to go, yeah, from this corner, and it's going to come down this way. Cool. So I need both of those. There it is. And effectively, I'm going to keep working on this pattern and this project until my fingers get tired, or I get bored, or I can't do it anymore. That's kind of one of the reasons I like doing this on stream, because A, you guys keep me having a conversation while I'm doing this helps actually keep me on task. You guys are my body doubles. But it also gets me to do projects that maybe I wouldn't normally do. Which is a good thing. Okay, it's perioperception and kinesthesia. Alright, cool. Just for my own reference for future... I'm sure I will forget the term, but... it's good to know that it is an actual term and it does exist. And I wasn't imagining it. Because who wants to imagine words? Well, I mean, all words are imaginary, but you know what I mean. All words are just... Wait. Whoops. Wrong needle to go through that hole. Wrong needle to go through that hole. I've done that before, and it's always annoying when I do it. Alright, let's try this again. Let's even these out as best as I can. There we go. Oop. I gotta say, as background music goes, I'm enjoying the background music here. I am kind of a fan of shamisen music, and combining it with the rock was always something I kind of enjoyed. And I always worked hard, and I always suffered from being able to really find it commonly. So to find out that there's whole YouTube channels dedicated to it makes me happy. I mean, there's whole YouTube channels dedicated to everything, so, you know. Hey, Raven! How are you today? I'm working on a new pattern with some very highly inappropriate leather for it. I'm going to work on it until my fingers give out, or I just get bored and want to change over. Come here, you. And then I will probably... Yeah, meow. Meow. Meow, meow, meow. I'm good. I was kind of debating what to do with this stream today. And then a pattern on Etsy I've been waiting for went on sale. So I was like, well, obviously, there's my decision for... That's my decision made. So... I am, however, regretting that I did not punch bigger holes for the stitching in this. But, you know, that's what you're going to do, right? Unless I want to go back and put a new drill bit on my drill and drill every single hole over again, which I don't really want to. It's kind of stuck with what we're doing. You sent something on Discord, huh? Well, let me go take a look. Alright, let me go take a quick look. Also, let me make sure that this is in fact the thing that I am... That there is no... No, there is no... Okay, but you do the last hole, or you do the last hole? You do not do the last hole. Okay, so you leave the last hole. All right. Nice. So how do you handle the leather folding like it does at the tips of the toes? That's always a challenge that I kind of have, that I have. You know? Because there's always, whenever you bend leather like that, there's always a lump or a fold or something like that gets kind of in the way, and it becomes excess material that you have to deal with. So, you know, I'm kind of curious how you deal with that as a shoemaker, cobbler. Because that is a challenge for every leather maker, honestly. That's a thing that just happens. Okay. I mean, anything you want to show me is great, because I am just at this point... I'm just going to be doing a lot of stitching. So, you know, yay. So my content is just going to be a whole lot of me sitting here pulling needles through stuff. Which you may or may not be able to see real well because I have to finish each pull with the fucking pliers. By the way, anyone who says that leather work is not a lot of work has never stitched 8 to 10 ounce leather before. Hand stitched. So, hand stitched it with tight thread even. Now there is an accessory you can get for leatherworking. That's basically a little. It's basically a little hand glove that's got a little base plate that sits on a harder plate. I have always been I've been one of those people who's always said, leather work is not hard. It's really not. With some basic instructions, anyone can pick up leather and make things like I do. How much you want to put into that, though, and also, I learned the part is learning all the shortcuts and all the ways you can avoid a good chunk of the harder work. That's always the part that's what you learn. But sometimes you just gotta frickin' push a needle through some really fucking thick leather. And there's nothing you can do about it. And I think there's a hole there that's going to be a little bit troublesome to get to later, but oh well. Because I'm using this thicker leather. Alright, I will take a look at Raven as soon as I'm finished with the stitching line because I'm almost done with the stitching line. Only 5 more stitches to do on this line. I'm making a mask dragon. But what kind of mask it is a little bit of a surprise. And I think it'll become a little more obvious as I continue with the project. If I... Come here, you. There we go. If I'm not able to show the end product before the end of the stream, or before the end before I get done making the thing that I'm making, I'll let you all know what it is. But I kind of want to keep it a surprise until I'm sure which way we're going to go with it. Especially since this is as I've been saying, this is very much the wrong material for this particular project. But it is material that I've had sitting around for a very long time that I thought I was going to use for other things and just didn't. So I'd rather use it up and get rid of it, honestly. And if I can do that, if the project, if it does come out kind of nice, then I'll probably finish it up by dyeing it and doing all the finishing work on it. But for now, I just wanted to test the pattern, see what I liked about it and what I didn't like about it. See if there are things Very good, Raven. I'm sure you passed it. I'm sure you did great. Come here. Yeah, hand stitching through. This is 8 to 10 ounce leather that I didn't put, honestly, big enough stitching holes in. Is not a lot of fun. And as I said, I could go back and widen all the stitching holes, but then I'd have to drill out all the stitching holes again, which would take longer than me just using the pliers and pushing the needles through that way. You should. Why leave something finished if you don't have? Why leave something unfinished if you don't have to, right? Come here, you. Now, Raven, I will say, I know you do a lot of hand stitching. I know you do a lot of machine stitching as well. This is very much the type of thing that you could never machine stitch, because the way the leather is meant to line up, the needles and the stitching itself are what pull it into the shape that the final design requires. So, like, so it could never really work with machine stitching, I guess I'd put it that way. So, there are things in leather that always just kind of need machine stitching, or hand stitching. And no amount of hoping or trying to change that will ever really change that. Especially for complex designs like this one. Yep. And I wouldn't normally call... If I wouldn't actually call this hard if I hadn't used the wrong size drill for the holes. Like if I wasn't having to force the needle through on every stitch, this would be a no problem, super easy to stitch project. But I always feel like when I make one of those bigger stitching holes, that it kind of like, I don't know, it kind of shows up in how the thread carries through the final product. All right, let's see what you sent me. Okay. So okay, Raven. I did want to tell you, Raven, that unfortunately, I might be, if you're doing the repo thing tomorrow, I might be late for repo, because, I ended up with an appointment at 11 o'clock. That's my time. That's kind of far away from me. So by the time I'm done with that appointment and, you know, get lunch and make it back, it may be a little bit after your start time. So if you're doing the repo thing, I may end up being a little bit late. But I do want to be here if I can get it, if I can be. So, all right, so next piece mirrors the first. It goes right there. But you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna take the time. I'm gonna widen the holes. I'm not gonna widen the holes in the top layer. I'm gonna widen the holes in the bottom layer. So that way, the widened holes are less obvious, are hidden. But at least it'll help a little bit. No, I'm gonna tighten that up. All right. And I might do this on the future, on the next pieces of this, but we'll just start with this for now and see how it goes. All I'm doing is widening the holes just a little bit. It'll make it easier for the needles to pass through. One of the reasons I kind of didn't do this is because, as you can see, the stitching holes are pretty close together, and I wasn't sure the bigger drill bit would fit well through the bigger stitching holes. I also think, the way my hands are feeling, I'm going to do this piece. I'm going to stitch these two pieces together, and then I'm going to take a short stitching break and work on something else. I think we will work on something kind of fun. These are it'll just be some sort of finishing pieces for stuff I've been finishing up of some pieces that I've been working on. if I can find all my piece components for it. There's those. Nope, that's not them. Where did I put them? Oh, I put them over here. Okay. Yeah, well, we'll take a short stitching break, and I will do something a little bit different. Oh, right. Just to see how much of a pain in the butt. Oh, of course, I hit it first try. I was going to show you how much of a pain in the butt it is to thread these stupid needles. But then it worked, so okay. And we need first hole through there. And then in there. Ah, oh, it's so much better. Like, I still need to pull it with the pliers, but so much easier. I mean, I still need to pull it with the pliers because the top hole is still uses that thinner, smaller drill bit, but yeah. It's going to be a lot easier going forward. Yep. And things you usually find easy are always 10 times harder when you're trying to show someone how you do it. That's how it always works. Always, always, always how it works. Oop, nope, that's not, shouldn't be pulling through that. There we go. At least this way I can return to my usual stitching style, which is to do 2 holes at a time. So I'm always going through the same needle hole with the same needle. Just to give it a little more security. We do. I'm more than happy. I mean, I know you're, you're not awake, unfortunately, for it. My plan today is to do multiplayer with Daruda. Like I usually do on Thursdays, but since we chatted, I'm also going to stream it, I think. Since Daruda is okay with me streaming it. But sure, we also can I'm happy to do multiplayer. Since I haven't been doing multiplayer so much on Thursdays, why don't we do it next Tuesday? We can do multiplayer on Tuesday. Nope, that's not going through. Obviously, I will be around on Beats on that Tuesday. Oops. Also, just so you all know, in not next week, but the week after next, is my first major convention or show of the year. So I will not be around for my Sunday stream. I will almost certainly be around for my Tuesday following stream, as I usually am, but the Sunday stream will not happen because I will still be at that. I'll be at that con, and by the time I'm done with that con, I will not want to be dealing with people for a day or so. So, Sunday night when I get home, it's going to be basically zombie time and probably ice cream. And Monday will be equally zombie time. Let me finish this stitch and I will give you... I will give Harold your proxy head pats. Let me just pull that through for this final stitch. All right. So that stitch is done. We'll bring up... Hey, look, Harold. Head pats, proxy head pats for Raven. Proxy head pats. Head pats for Raven. And why are we giving Harold your proxy head pats? Because we know Raven passed his test, don't we, Harold? There is no way that Raven did not pass his test. We know that Raven is totally deserving of their successes, and they absolutely passed their tests. So head pats for Harold, in proxy for Raven. So head pats, head pats, head pats, head pats. Yay, head pats. And a little bit of head scritch as well. Head scritches as well. So, there you go. Yeah, Feline, I don't know if you've been around for that, but that's something I do, is I offer head pats to chat the best way I can. When I'm in Beat Saber, I go right up to chat and they get head pats, and if I'm not in Beat Saber, I try to find a proxy that can take the head pats. Is definitely harder to do when I'm doing this, or if I'm doing just a regular gaming stream. But I do my best. Because everyone deserves head pats. That's a cute little animated emote. What, Feline? Well, yes, Feline, because you would actually have to stream to hug on stream. You know, one thing you could do, Feline, is you could do things like stream, not Beat Saber. Then, if something interrupts you unexpectedly in ways that we know can happen, it doesn't pull you out quite so hard. Pull as hard. And maybe it would actually get you to play some of those games you have piling up. What? It is a perfectly normal shaped leather piece. It's an elephant. See, it's an elephant. There's the trunk and there's the ears. It's a pygmy elephant. It doesn't have a trunk very well. Come here, you. Nope. Grr. There we go. Okay. We stitching. Almost done with the stitching this part. Then we will put it aside and I will shift to something else for a little bit. Whew. Okay. The difficulty is I'm also trying to keep up a reasonable pace because just sitting here watching me stitch may not be exactly the most exciting thing in the world. But hey, I'm glad you're here. I really do appreciate it. Yep, and my hands are telling me I need a little bit of a stitching break. So we'll be doing something else for a little bit. And since this project is 90% stitching, we're gonna do something else we're gonna do a different project. Don't worry though, we'll return to this. I just want to do, as I said, just do a little something else for a little bit to give my hands a rest. So we're going to put that over there. We're going to put that out of the way so Twitch doesn't get any funny ideas. All right. the next thing we're going to do is something that is going to be very blatantly obvious once you see it, but we're not going to say what it is for Twitch's reasons. And I still need a couple other pieces, because I have less screws than I thought I did, so I will be right back. So this is, shall we say, a fun item which we are not going to tell Twitch what it is. Because I sincerely doubt Twitch can identify it, and we're not going to say what it is so Twitch can identify it. But what I need to do is I need to put these bases onto these pieces. It's a piano, yes. It makes noise. So we're going to clean these up just a little bit. So effectively what I'm doing here, what I did was I 3D printed some sleeves to kind of standardize the look of them, give them a little bit of a cleaner look, and to hold them a little bit better and to hold them securely. So effectively what I'm doing is I'm going to be gluing and drilling a bunch of holes and putting a bunch of tacks in them and all sorts of things that'll make them look a little bit prettier. Because that's what we want. We want pretty. Since I have 6 of these, though, I'm going to be I'm going to be speed running production of these, so I'm going to have all 6 of them here. We're going to move this water out of the way. You don't need it right now. And I just knocked my hole puncher out of the way. Now, Raven. No, it's not. It's entirely TOS friendly. And unless I get banned. Because who knows. So for these, I usually I have the screws, the tacks and everything are components to help secure them in the sleeve, but I still use hot glue just as a way to add a little additional holding element. Especially because there might be gaps. The leather isn't always the exact same. So because there might be gaps some in there. There might be little spaces where the leather doesn't get good contact. So I put a bunch of hot glue in there because the hot glue is very good at filling those gaps and filling those voids. Is very squishy and very convenient in that fashion. I'm going to need more glue sticks. I'm also going to need some water. Water. This is kind of the boring part of my job, is just basically doing this. You know, I've said it in other streams as well, especially when I was doing like collars and chokers. This is kind of the very much more the boring part of the job, where it's just, hey, look, I need a dozen of these. Oop, that's going to be too small. That's going to be... Really? Before, you guys were the right size. Dang it. Well, this is unfortunate. Especially because I've got another batch of these printing, and if they don't fit, that's a problem. I mean, they'll fit something eventually, but... I'm going to be making more of these, so it just means I'll have to print more of the bigger ones, because as you can see, I have a larger size one as well. So if I have to print more of the bigger ones, that's not that big a deal. But yeah, that's annoying. Okay, so I'm going to need more of these bigger ones. Oh, and of course the bigger ones are way too big. So everything is, of course, either too small or too big. Oh well. Okay. Well, I will approach that problem another time. I will basically have to remeasure and redo my pattern. That's okay. However, that does mean I should probably stop my 3D printer from printing what it is printing right now. So, give me just a moment. I could make them fit in the bigger ones, but not in the smaller ones. Funny enough, I can't jam them in. There isn't enough lube. Just a moment. Okay. Right. So basically what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to get measurements on all of these and start printing a new batch. Which is okay. Like, all that ended up happening is you know, I wasted some 3D printer filament. And honestly, these won't go to waste. They will be usable on other sizes later. So this is not a waste. I just stopped the printing that I was always doing to make sure I didn't waste more material. I didn't use more material. Interestingly enough, Feline, that's actually kind of where I got the idea. The sort of round cups that fit on some chair legs was kind of how I got the idea. And the idea is simply that I wanted to standardize the look of these. Because I kind of don't like having a rough edge exposed. And this also makes sure that this also gives me a way to make sure that the tacks are always in the right place. Oh, that's what happened. All right. So now, these aren't just leather. I do use a wood center post so that the screw that's holding everything in place does have something to grip onto. But just to make sure, I've added an additional little, sort of instead of Loctite, I put a couple shots of hot glue in there just to give the screw even more to hold on to. So, oh, those are bigger screws. Okay, well, they'll still work. They'll probably work better, in fact. Come here, you. Yep. I be drilling. Do I have any more of the smaller? I do not. That's okay. Alright. The next part, you're not really going to be able to see what I'm doing too much because I'm going to have to keep it kind of... Well, no, I might be able to do that. We'll try and keep it on camera as best I can. So the next part is I need to place this bracket, which should be kind of as centered as I can get it. Now this is another one where I want to put as much, I want to sort of fill the void with this hot glue to make sure that it stays nice and tight. Especially because the void that is under this screw hole is directly into the leather. And so it's holding on to the plastic of the 3D printing and the leather. which is fine. I am 100% confident in the ability of this plastic to hold on to the plastic and the leather to hold on to the screws. But it's always good to just be sure, you know? Because, you know, you don't want these coming apart while they're being used. Because that would be awkward, to say the least. Alright, let's do the other one now. Sleepy time for you, Raven? Okay. Good night, Raven. Sleepy head pats. Proxy head pats for Harold. Sleep tight. Sleep good. Have a good day. All that fun stuff. Little head scratch. But yes, have a good evening. I hope tomorrow is as good for you as today was. Alright, so again, we're going to try to center this as much as I can. Get a good injection of hot glue in there. Oh yeah, take that hot glue injection. Take it real well. Or something like that. And I know, as Lori says, lewd. Alright. Alright, and we'll do the other side now. I mean, that's true. You're not wrong there. Alright. Alright. Okay, so after that, we swap out this drill. And you can tell which drill I use to work with the plastic because it always comes out with melted plastic on it. And we drop in a new head. Alright, and then we drill out these little holes, which conveniently I'm able to mark because the only problematic thing about doing this is that drilling this stuff throws off little bits of incredibly hot melted PLA plastic. So I'm constantly being sprayed with little tiny bits of plastic napalm, essentially. I don't know what a ventilation hood would do. It's throwing the plastic directly at my hand. I mean, legitimately, I have no idea how good a plastic hood would work in this circumstance. Okay. Now, luckily, PLA plastic is actually non-toxic. It is made out of It is made out of vegetable oil. I think specifically sunflower oil is what PLA plastic is made out of. So it is not toxic in that regard, which is nice. Now again, I always put a little thing of hot glue just to secure everything and make sure everything is going to sit in its spot. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you're not wrong there. But, you know, it's not like I have the money for any of these things. I do plenty of things that are probably toxic for me without the proper protection because I don't have the money to buy the protection. Frankly, and I'm not saying this is an excuse or as justification, what's a bigger hazard to me is more likely the leather than it is the PLA. Where did I put that other bag of stuff? The stuff they use to tan leather is serious, sometimes some seriously bad shit. I'll put them in here. Oh, there it is. In fact, so I've considered getting a laser cutter to, at the very least, mark my patterns more easily onto the leather. You know, to make sure that the patterns are even and they're perfect. You know, they're to spec and measured properly. And I have a friend who went to do that as well. And went to those sort of, you know, one of those like places where you can sort of rent the tools for a little while. And when he went to go burn the leather to get the pattern on the leather, they basically flat told him, they were like, oh, you want to burn leather? You want to put leather in our laser cutter? That's fine, but let me lead you over here. And they basically had a full enveloping ventilation hood that they're like, if you are ever doing leather, you have to use this full enclosure ventilation hood. If you're burning your leather, because the fumes that come off of leather, especially any kind of dyed or painted leather, that's, finished leather, are like nasty, nasty, nasty. And actually, a lot of less reputable places will tan their leathers with formaldehyde. And I'm sure you can imagine that breathing formaldehyde is not the best thing for you. Breathing burnt off formaldehyde is not good. So if I ever had the money, I still want to get a laser burner for that purpose. But believe me, I will be running that thing from another room. It's going to have a complete separate ventilation tube. It'll have its own window it vents from. I will take every precaution I can to make sure that shit is nowhere near me when I burn it. Yeah, and don't breed your formaldehyde either. It's just yucky. Alright, well, that's the first one done. I was hoping to be able to get, those other ones done, but guess I should have checked the size before I started the sizing on the sleeve before I start another batch. That is sometimes a drawback with doing leather work. Like, you can get two of what it says is the exact same hide, and they'll be very different from each other. They'll be just very, very different. They'll have different thicknesses, they'll have slightly different textures, they'll have different pigments, colors, all that stuff. It's just sometimes not great. It's leather, so you can't imagine it's all exactly the same, but it makes some challenges when you're looking for consistency. Especially if you're looking for color consistency, because color consistency is the worst. Finding any kind of color consistency in leather is nearly impossible. Basically, unless you get multiple hides from the exact same dye batch, you will never get, and even then, it's rare to get perfectly matching color consistency. All right. Well, since I wasn't able to get back to the other, since I have to remeasure and redo the other sides, I suppose this is where our break from stitching will come to an end, and we'll move on to the next stage of the stitching process. Disconnect that hot glue gun. We don't want that running. Well, it's cool. Alright, so let me look back at my video and see what the next thing is. Yeah, and again, you're not doing the last hole. Alright, so the next is that. Okay, we can do that. Although it is going to be a little bit of an oofy when we get near the bottom, but that'll work. Okay, we can do that part. All right. So the next part is attaching this to that, which is going to be oh so fun with this very, very thick leather we're using. But it is what it is. So, but we are going to, since that's going to be covered up, we're gonna do some enlarging of these holes. Again, we're gonna enlarge the bottom holes a little bit. I'm not too worried about that getting severed there because we will burn the ends of it, and it'll be fine. So give me just, we will. That and just burn there and burn there. Easy solution is always just to, if needed, and if we need to redo the stitching a little bit later, we can do that. It's not that big a deal. Okay. Next track. You know what? Screw it. On this one, I'm going to help myself a little bit. I'm just going to drill all of the holes so I don't have to deal with the threading. So where did I put the piece? There it is. Especially since at some points I'm going to be going through 3 layers of material. I absolutely do not want to have to deal with forcing the needles through the stitching holes. So this will be better. As always, it's better to use too much stitching sinew than too little. You don't want to have to restart in the middle of a process. What we might do is food is good, dragons. You know what I might do is I might get as much of this done in this stream as I can, and then make a part 2 and finish this my next stream. But we'll see how far we get. Either I will do this stream and finish in the next stream, or I will do this and finish off stream and show everybody the end result. So, one or the other will happen. Why do I keep doing that? Keep grabbing the wrong one. Bah. There we go. That's the right one. This should hopefully go a lot faster now that I've enlarged the stitching holes. And then this goes to that. Nope, it goes to that, which I missed before, but that's okay. Some of these stitches are kind of hidden, which is making this a little more challenging. There we go. How about, My what now? Oh, yeah, the wood ones, yeah. I had no idea what you were talking about there for a second. Those are for a different project. Alright, so this is the part where it starts getting a little... This is where the thick leather that I'm using is really going to hamper me. Because this really wants to be pulled tight, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to pull it as tight as it wants, given the type of leather I'm using. but we shall see. Yeah, this is built to be using leather that is way thinner than what I'm using here. And this is really the first part, because I'm triple... This is the first part where it's really making a huge difference, and that's happening because it's a triple layered piece. This is a triple layered piece. They are on the floor. Let's see if I can tighten that down a little bit more. All right, well, that'll sort of work. There, now I've covered them. Now they are properly covered. So this is the part where I really want to, alright, cinch it down as best I can. Oh wait. This is the, as I said, the tricky part, because we're going through 3 layers of leather here. And we're going through 3 layers of leather that don't want to be gone through. Okay. Oh yeah, I don't care if it's a little less convenient. I need to drill the bigger holes in all the pieces when I move forward doing this. It's just much, much easier. It doesn't take that long either, I suppose. Now the other question remains, does this need as many stitches as they put in this? And the answer is I think probably. Like, I don't want to... Like, in this case, I don't think I want to mess with the number of stitches, especially with how complicated some of these stitch patterns are. I find it vaguely amusing how my workspace gets messier and messier and messier throughout stream, because I do more and more things and I just don't bother to fix them, correct them while I'm streaming. So there's just more and more clutter and more stuff. Do not need the hot glue. Do need a sip of water. Alright, so after we do this stitch, the next stitch is water. Water is good. Alright, so we have that stitch. Next stitch is, well, we're not doing that quite at this moment. I'll come back to this and do this one later, this part later. That I can do whenever I want. Okay, this part I do kind of need to do. Alright. So the next part is... we got these guys. So those are supposed, that's supposed to go that way, but... so we got these guys. These guys need to be riveted on, so we're going to rivet them on. Are you kind of getting the idea of maybe what we're starting to put together? Any clues, any ideas? What this might be? Yeah, no effing wonder they wanted this thing to be done in thinner material. Holy crap. Understandable. Completely reasonable. This is... next time I do this, I'm doing this in 4 to 6 ounce material at worst. Because this is not fun. So that's where we are now. So the other piece that you, so we have this piece, so currently we have this piece and this piece. These are our 2 pieces. that we have right now. I've been caught by my chair for a little bit. Okay. So we do the two things. Did I get them in? No, that's the right way. Okay. Then we're on to this piece. Aha! I think after this next set of stitches, this will be a lot more obvious. So for that, yeah, I'm just gonna take a moment and drill out all of the holes in both of these. Again, the goal is to just make it easier to stitch things because, as I'm discovering, like, taking the time to just put the bigger holes in is worth more than just than the frustration of having to pull the needle through every single time. So I'm just going to take care of this right now. As I managed to not quite drill a hole in my thumbnail, because that would be awkward. So this is normally something I would do before a stream, just to save a little stream time, but you know, hindsight being 2020 and all that. here we see the leather crafter trying to make good on the mistakes that would have saved him probably a good half an hour of time over the course of the scene, and immense levels of frustration. From trying to work a needle through a hole that's too small. Had he just done this earlier, over here I made a cut when I was initially cutting this pattern out. I made a mistake. It was the second time I had made that same mistake, and I didn't want to do it a third time, so since the cut didn't go all the way through the leather, I just said, fuck it. And if I like the pattern, what I'll probably do is I will put some, a couple little extra stitches along the side and make sure it doesn't go anywhere. Now, one technique I used earlier in the stream is called wet molding, just to get the corners here to shape a little bit better. What I might do is I might do that to the entire project when I'm done, just to coax it more into the shape that I want. But we'll see. smell the burning leather in here. I don't know if you can see the smoke as it comes out, but it's not the same as the smoke leaving the TV, but you know, when the magic smoke leaves the old monitors, but it ain't exactly good. Okay, let's bring those back. Bring this back. Bring these back. Okay. Alright, let's confirm what I'm supposed to be doing next. Pretty much, yeah. Like, it's burned something, that's for fucking sure. Oh, you go around the corner, don't you? I can see why you do that. Still going, still going. Okay, basically just go all the way up that. Yeah, go all the way up that. Okay. This is going to require a lot of thread, so... Okay, let's see if I can... think. Actually, let me make sure it's going as far as I think it's going. Okay. Oh wait, now you've added that piece. Oh, interesting. Weird, but interesting. Okay, I'm going to need a very long thread for this part. Okay. Okay. Yes. Well, no, it's all pretty basic techniques. It's just stitching. But the stitching line they're using is very it's a very, very long stitching line, and the pieces that they're connecting don't make an immense amount of sense, like how they're doing it. Well, it kind of makes sense, but it's definitely a oof. You're doing a lot of you got to have a very long thread, and you're doing a very large amount of stitching on this one. Like, this one stitch line is definitely longer than any stitch line I've done before. I'm pretty sure. I will get as far as they got, hopefully, and... I mean, this is very essentially Stitch Part A to Part B, Part C, B to Part C, etc., etc., etc. It's just that where all the stitches have to go is and in what order kind of makes a big deal, a big difference. So. So I really, like, if I'm not, how do I put this? If I don't use a very long piece of thread, and if I don't be kind of careful with how I put this together, I'm going to be either disconnecting or backtracking a fair bit. Which, as you can guess, is probably not going to be the funnest time. Especially since I don't want to backtrack or do things or do stitches over again. So I want to be very careful with how I place my excess thread and make sure that I'm not going to accidentally catch my thread on something or overlap something or anything of that nature. So it's just, it's a matter of being careful because it's a very long stitch. And doing this and pulling my needle clean through, not the best way to start, honestly. Again, is it going to be particularly difficult? I would say probably not. Is it going to be annoying and probably sort of frustrating and make me not want to do it anymore a couple points? Probably that too. Do I also want to make sure I don't catch the other needle in it? Yup. Am I going to catch the other needle into it? Almost certainly at least a couple times. Come here, you. So thread management and stitch management are going to be kind of a big deal in this. Yeah, pretty much. And technically I do have a stitching saddle, so if I wanted to, I could use that. But I think this is an awkward enough... The way this has to be stitched together is awkward enough that I don't think a stitching saddle would help. Unfortunately. If you know what a stitching... I'm assuming you know what a stitching saddle is. I'm hoping you know what a stitching saddle is. Let's go back to the beginning of that. Wait, did I... Fuck. Ah! Nope, I fucked that up. I went into the wrong place. This should have been up here, not down there. I fucked up badly. Oh well. Stitched it in the wrong place. So I'm going to redo the whole thing. I was wondering how that bend was going to work. The answer was, it wasn't. I just fucked it up. Look, it just goes to show that no matter how experienced you are at this kind of stuff, you can still royally fuck it up. Like, you really can screw it up. But, what is being a professional? A professional is knowing when you screw up, if it's something you can recover from, something that can be repaired, or when it's time to just say, oops, and throw it away. Because you can either waste a whole bunch of effort trying to engineer a way around your fuck up, or you can realize when sometimes there's just... you just need to let it go and start over. Oh, ooh, yeah, that sucks. Honestly, at least I caught it when it was only like... At least I caught it when I was only like a half dozen stitches in instead of like, you know, 20 or 30 stitches in. Because, of course, that would have sucked even more. Okay, so let's do this properly now. Yep, I caught it reasonably early. Mostly because I was like, how the fuck is that turn gonna work? And it turned out it wasn't. There was no way it was going to work. this makes a little more sense. Don't. The somewhat bright side of this is going to make it significantly easier for you to tell what I'm working on very quickly. There we go. Hopefully. We are approaching the 3-hour mark though, so we'll see how much further we get today. As I said, I do want to do some time on Ruta's stream. But I also want to get as much of this done as I can. Yeah, that's a little bit better. That makes more sense. Boom, 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 boom. Also, note to self, trust your instincts on your stitching holes. Unless you are using very small needles, go with the larger size stitching holes. You will thank yourself in frustration, and save frustration and time, and finger strain. I didn't, did I? I did. Well, as long as I've got it in hand. I'm able to go a lot faster now that I know what I'm doing a little bit more, and I'm not fucking up quite so bad. Stop it. Come here, you. There we go. This part's the easy part. The transition is going to be a little bit harder. So the answer is I might want to get this line done. And then we will probably call it there. But this is, as I said, a very long line, so we'll see how long it takes. Come here, you. This is apparently where the drill didn't go quite through as well as I'd hoped, but you know. Alright, so now this is the part where we go through 3 layers, I think. Let me take a quick look at the video. Video. Okay. 1, 2, and 3. Now, are you going up 1 or over at that point? Sorry, I'm looking at this, how they're doing this stitch over. Playback speed 0.75. Okay, so he does that one. You wanted to do it no look, but it turned into a look. Okay. Then you go into this one, which is going through 3 layers of leather. Yep. Go back through. And then do you go up 1 more, or do you go to the left at this point? No, you go left immediately. Okay. That's what I needed to know. Okay. Alright. So, basically it's this, and then this goes through this, which goes through this, which goes through that. Okay. And then, so we do the reverse down here. And again, go through this, and didn't mean to pull that out. Didn't mean to pull out. Giggity. Okay. I'm not going to fight with this one, so we're just going to pull it through. And tighten that down. And then he immediately turns left. So immediately goes for that one into this one. And again, this would be better if I had not used quite as thick thread material, but we make our choices. Okay. Cut my scissors. Cut my scissors. No scissors. Bad scissors. Okay, let's tighten that down. We'll do one more stitch. That's a single stitch, just to make sure it's tightened down. Okay. This goes this way. Still no guesses, by the way, on what I'm making today? None at all? I think it's becoming a little bit more obvious now. Ow. Not quite. Close. Closer. Not Piggy. Piggy would have bigger ears, I think. Getting closer. I will give this hint. It's been something I've been looking for quite a long while. And anyone who knows me knows what that probably means. It's a pattern that I have been unsuccessful at finding for years before now, because no one had one. I mean, appropriate since, you know, I'm kind of not, but... but no. Alright, so I need to see where this join is. Nope! It is an animal, though. It is definitely an animal. It is definitely a wild animal. Yeah! Well, it's technically a lion it's going to be a lion. It's technically a lion mask. But this is my first run through with it, and I am confident after understanding the pattern a little bit more, I will be able to I'll be able to adjust it to make it more leopard-like. For example, this pattern, this pattern doesn't have the cheek ruffs that leopards do. So I'm going to have to figure out how to do that. And right now this pattern is a right now this pattern is, as I said, built for a lion. They give a little bit of an idea of how to attach a mane to it, like a full lion's mane. But and I need to look that up, actually. Well, that'll be at the end. I probably will not do a lion's mane on this one, so it'll be a lioness. But, you know. But basically, I've been looking for a big cat pattern for you have no idea how long. And finding one has been just amazingly difficult. Like, it has been an incredible challenge finding anybody who's willing to either make or come up with a feline, a big cat pattern. So to finally find someone who's doing that, who did one, is like, I had to pick it up. I had to buy it. And I will have to modify it to get what I want out of it. But I'm okay with that. I mean, basically, yeah. That's not a bad way of putting it. Not to say I don't want a fursuit head. I do want a fursuit at some point in the future. But that's a long way off and potentially very expensive. And this is something I can do now. So it will be very good to have this. Oh yeah, no. It's like, I have no illusions how much a good fursuit would cost. Like, believe me, I do not have any illusions in that regard. Did I drop a stitch? I did. So I'm not I am going to get a fursuit head at some point, or fursuit at some point, if I ever have money again. I am entirely okay with it costing however much it's going to cost. And I understand that is going to be a lot. But, like, for now, I at least can make this. little something something, so to speak. And the other thing about it is, and the other thing is, I also know other people who want feline leather heads or masks, and not just the cheesy like Catwoman style mask where it's just a little like basically a Halloween mask, but like legitimate big feline masks that are kind of in the same situation I am, which is it's so hard to find someone who makes big cat masks because it's a very different style and design than most people do. So, there's that as well. And unfortunately, I am to the point where if I don't think I can make money off of it, I can't afford to do it. There are no such things as passion projects when you're in business. If you can't make a dime off of it, you're probably not going to be able to afford doing it. So, which is a little sad, but that is kind of the reality of things. So, now this will be, given the difficulty of how difficult this pattern is being, this pattern isn't incredibly difficult, but again, it's a lot of hand stitching, which is a lot of work and a lot of time. So this one is not going to be cheap. As opposed to like my pup hoods. My pup hoods, I wouldn't call them cheap, but they're certainly not expensive, and that's because they're not as much stitching. I can rivet a lot of them, a lot of the piece, and they don't take nearly as much time to complete. So, for example, this is, as I said, this is a very long stitch. This is a very, very long stitch path that this is following. I'm not sure if I have enough thread even after all I'm not sure I even have enough thread even with all the thread I put on this needle. least I'm not having the problem of having to manage all the excess thread right now, though. Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to make it to the end of this on this. What's scary? Dragon? Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be done after this stitch line. My hands are starting to feel it a lot. And I don't want to give myself restraint or anything like that when I'm still working on things. So it's going pretty, I mean, the rest of this will go reasonably quickly. Yeah. It's telling me it's about time to stop. Oh, right. Let's see if I can switch hands. I did learn to kind of do that, didn't I? Switch to left hand. Left hand stitching. Something I learned how to do when I discovered I was wearing my wrist out, honestly. Admittedly, I've always been partially ambidextrous. Mostly because I learned how to because I was very accident prone as a child, and so I injured myself quite often. There we go. Okay. Yeah, this is a very, very long stitch line. Come on, only 5 stitches left. And it looks like my thread's going to make it after all. I was afraid it wouldn't. Okay, do not stab, Professor, do not stab yourself with your own needle. You've done that enough already. There's no reason to keep doing it. Right, you do not fight the needle if it does not want to come out. You just grab a pair of pliers and pull it through. And then we reattach the needle because it came loose. Well, managed to stick myself in the thumb. First time this stream. I'm surprised it took me that long. Honestly, very surprised it took me as long as it did to stick myself. Practically. Basically. All right. Was I supposed to put this in there? I think I was, but we'll see. All right. So, I think that is going to be enough of this for today. As you can see, I think we made it a good 2/3 to 3/4 of the way through our pattern today. Which is honestly pretty good in 3.5 hours and 3 hours and 40 minutes. My hands cannot take more stitching, honestly. So that, I think, is where we're going to stop today. But I think what I will do is I'm going to pick up I see what he's doing. Okay. Now you see the lion in it? Yeah. Yeah. And the thing about lions and other big cats is they mostly, they have most of them have very similar facial structure. So I think once I'm able to get this together and make the cat out of it, I'll be able to make adjustments that will help me make other big cats. You know, maybe smaller chin, maybe maybe smaller chin, maybe ruffs on the side of the neck, on the sides of the cheeks, things like that. So, smaller chin, puffier cheeks, bigger ass. Yep. But as I said, I think that is where I'm going to call it for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you all over to Daruta, because Daruta is doing some Beat Saber right now. So we are going to raid him. And I will pick this back up on Sunday, I think, is what I will do. So I think I can finish this all out on Sunday, and we can have a nice designed mask. I hope you'll be here for that. It'll be same time as I was today. But otherwise, I hope today was a good day. I hope it was better than yesterday. I hope tomorrow is better still, and I hope you learned something today. But until I see you next time, which will hopefully be Sunday, y'all have a good afternoon, good days, and bye-bye. Bye-bye.